Number 8, have respect for motherhood. Regardless of whether you want to have a biological child or not, treat children as the blessing they are, and have a healthy respect for your body's ability to create a new human being. If due to health issues or surgery you can't bear a child, or for whatever reason you don't want to, at least recognize and respect that bringing a new life into the world is an awesome privilege that us women have that men don't. So again, motherhood is it's not an insult, it's not a degradation. Giving birth, pregnancy, and delivery in our society, because we have more of like a medical industrial complex, we've kind of made birth into like this business, where you got to go to the hospital and, it's this big thing, and you have a bunch of drugs and blah, blah, blah. And obviously hospital births are good and necessary in certain cases, We've really medicalized, the whole, cycle of pregnancy and childbirth. This is a natural process. Our bodies are designed to do this. It's kind of an awe-inspiring thing that the female body can do this. We can grow a new human being. Pregnancy and giving birth, that's not an illness. They say new mothers are the only people in the hospital who aren't sick. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. Everybody in the hospital is there because they have an illness, there's something wrong with their body. However, new mothers are at the hospital not because something's wrong with their body, but because something's going right. They're doing what their body's designed to do. So again, maybe you personally, you don't want to have kids, that's fine. But just because you personally don't want to have kids doesn't mean that there's something wrong with having kids. I think that's something our society gets very wrong. We make it out like there's something kind of wrong with motherhood, and so then women kind of feel almost a little bit ashamed, of wanting to have children. We medicate away fertility, we take birth control left and right, and then women never really get the credit, that's due to them for what an amazing thing their body can do. Motherhood is a beautiful thing. Children are a beautiful thing. And a feminine woman understands this, especially for those of you that kind of identify with like the empath idea. You feel like you absorb people's energies. This is something I was kind of alluding to in the earlier one when I was talking about number 4, nurturing something, and how us women don't get to be around children very much. That's a shame, because those of us that are more like empaths, children have such a clean, I don't know how to say it without sounding like woo-woo, but if you identify with the whole like empath thing, I think you'll know what I mean. How when you talk to people, you can kind of sense like their vibe, or some people just seem to have like a dark cloud around them. Maybe they're having a bad day, or they're just a cranky person or whatever. But man, children are different. Children have such like a clean, pure energy to them. And like, man, I remember one time I was walking down to my apartment's mailboxes, and I was having a bad day. I had just gotten off work, and I was dealing with a lot of people who were kind of jerks at work, and I was feeling kind of sad. And this little kid just was like walking by with their mom and just kind of looking up around, and like, just kind of looked up at me and like, I think kind of waved or something, kind of greeted me. It was like, hello, and man, that kid, like I said, man, it had such like interacting with that kid, because I said hi back and stuff, but that kid had like such a pure energy to them. And it was like, man, it made my day. Like, I felt so much better. And so I really think it's so sad that us women are not really, there really isn't, if you don't have children in your family, or like, nieces or nephews, unless you have, unless you're around children through some sort of family connection, it's really hard to be exposed to children. Again, we kind of have them off in daycare centers, and a lot of people, we spend so much time at work, and there aren't children at work, unless you work in like a daycare or you have some sort of child-focused career. But in general, we all spend time in these offices, and we're not around little kids. And I think that's a shame, especially for us women. Again, motherhood and children are a blessing, and it's a privilege. Okay, like our society, I think one of the biggest con jobs we've done on women is we've convinced them that being able to give birth is no big deal. And that is such a lie. That is such that is the most anti-woman thing, in my opinion, that you could teach women, because it's the one thing we can do that men can't. And here we're always talking about, like, I'm woman, hear me roar, rah, rah, rah. But yet the one thing we can do that men can't, we're gonna just ignore that and like completely sweep it under the rug. If men could do that, you bet they would be shouting from the rooftops about their superpowers. Like, hey, I can grow a new human being. Like, if men could give birth, we would never hear the end of it. I mean, they would be like, oh my gosh, they would have such a huge ego, I think. I really do. Men already have big egos, but I mean, even when when you talk to men and stuff, they recognize it. They see it better than women do. What a privilege. What an impressive thing, when men are in their more honest, unguarded moments. Yeah, they'll say like, that's one thing really amazing about women that makes a lot of men feel inadequate. They're like, wow. I remember I was reading one of Dr. Phil's books. This is before he kind of like jumped the shark and like had that TV show and everything. But he had written a book and he said, I don't know why it is. Maybe it's because we can't give birth, but us men are obsessed with being busy and trying to accomplish things. And I thought that's a really interesting way of putting it. He's basically making the point that men are ambitious and they try to get all these great things done because they feel inadequate next to a woman. They're like, wow, you created a new human being. Like, how can I compete with that? Like, sure, I built a skyscraper, but you built a human being out of your body. Like, you just sat there and like it created itself after 9 months, there it is. So again, us women, like, we really need to take pride in that. Again, I'm not saying you have to have children, maybe that's not what you want to do, but that is an awesome privilege that us women have. Our fertility is not, a sickness that we need to medicate with birth control. It's an amazing thing, really amazing. I could say so much more about it, but again, have respect for motherhood. If you want to be more feminine, have a healthy respect for motherhood and see it as, the privilege and the impressive thing that it really is. And see children as the blessing they are. Yes, they're annoying. Yes, they cry and, are difficult, but children are a miracle. There's really something amazing about it. But anyways, all right, last one, number 9. Have a certain mystery and don't tell all your secrets and explain every little detail of yourself. The people who matter are satisfied with the general info, and the people who don't matter will use the details against you. So that's kind of what I was hinting at when I talked about number 5, and I was like, you don't want to go spilling your guts to everybody. Being feminine is about, among a lot of things, but a big aspect of femininity is mystery. Us women have a certain mystery about us, and a feminine woman will not kind of lay all her cards on the table. She's going to be a little more vague, a little, she'll kind of leave certain things left unsaid, because sometimes, especially when you're dating, you want to have a certain mystery. You don't want to come out and be like, I like you. Can we go on a date? You're like, that's not mysterious. Men like a woman who's a little bit like evasive, they're like, ooh, I'm not really sure where I stand with her, and so having a certain mystery, that creates kind of a certain dignity, and self-respect, because you're not out telling, you're not wearing your heart on your sleeve and telling everybody everything about you, because there is a certain vulnerability to that, so it's, you want to have a certain mystery for your own protection, your own peace of mind, and also like you don't, you are not for everyone. You don't have to constantly be explaining yourself to people, hoping that they'll see where you're coming from and approve of you. It can be very confident to be mysterious. You only say what needs to be said, what really needs to be said, because I'm not advocating like you hide things. There's certain situations where, yeah, you do need to be open with people, you need to be open with the doctor or like a therapist or things, or your parents, or confession, with the priest, obviously. But in general, there's a lot of things that don't need to be said. And also being silent, especially when you're around a guy and you're on a date, that's very intriguing to a man because it's so different. Most women we're very talkative, and we want people to approve of us. So we get nervous when there's silence. So we'll start trying to fill it with talking, Or again, we want people to approve of us and we're worried maybe they're judging us. So we kind of try to preempt that by like over explaining what we're doing and why we're doing it. But it can be a very confident thing to just be quiet, and you only say what needs to be said and you leave it at that. You're not constantly trying to explain yourself and things like that. And that's very intriguing for men because they can tell that you're not trying to like get their approval. They sense that confidence because you're just, maybe you're driving home from a date and you're letting that silence be there, Maybe it feels a little awkward, but let there be silences, when you're on a date and you don't feel like you have anything to say, and maybe there's like this awkward silence on the drive home. Sometimes it's good to let there be a silence, You don't have to constantly be talking. It's very feminine to be silent and to, have that mystery. So that is a very, very important aspect, I think, of femininity. Silence, is very important. Now, it's important for our peace of mind too. How many times have you kind of like talked and talked and talked, and then you came home and you were like, I feel uneasy about all the things I said to this person. I don't know what they're going to do with that information. Maybe you've had friends who you're not quite sure if, she's a frenemy, or you're not sure if this guy you dated, you don't really know him that well yet. Maybe telling him all these details about your childhood, you don't know if he's like a narcissistic jerk. Like maybe he'll use that info against you or something, So it can often create like some uneasiness and discomfort to overly talk about yourself. And so, it's important. Silence is really important, and silence is very feminine. You don't have to be talking all the time. You really don't. And if people give you crap about it, like, why are you so quiet today or whatever? Is something wrong? Like, no, nothing's wrong. I just didn't have anything I felt like saying. And that's it. I remember when I was in high school, that was when I learned that. I was watching The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. It was the first time. That's, this is going to show like how old I am, but the trilogy came out when I was in high school, the movies. And I watched The Two Towers, for the first time in the theaters, and I saw the elves. The elves were like really quiet. That's what I noticed about them. They would talk, but they really only talked when it was essential. For the most part, they were just very quiet and mysterious. And I was just completely enthralled with that. I loved the elves. I was like, I want to be an elf. They're so cool. And it wasn't like, oh, Legolas is good looking. I mean, obviously Orlando Bloom, like he's good looking. But it wasn't that. It was their whole culture, all the elves. Anytime an elf got on the screen, Arwen was a bit of an exception because I don't know, she never struck me as quite as elvish as the other elves, But in general, when I saw that, it really was a freeing idea. I felt very like liberated because it dawned on me that like I didn't have to talk all the time. It was okay to be quiet and mysterious. And that, for me, like, I am a more introverted person. Now, obviously, you extroverts are going to be watching this and you're going to be like, but I like talking. And that's okay. I'm not saying you have to completely change your personality, but maybe cut back a little bit. Just a little bit. But for those of you who are introverts, you'll probably resonate. Watch The Lord of the Rings. I'm telling you, watch the trilogy, watch The Two Towers especially, and you'll see the elves are very quiet, mysterious, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But again, yeah, it can be very liberating to realize like, oh, I don't have to be talking all the time. Sometimes it's okay to be quiet. And so yeah, after that, like I didn't talk as much, and I had one teacher, she's like, oh, are you okay? Like you're kind of quiet. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine, But yeah, so number 9, having a certain mystery is very feminine, That's one of the hallmarks of femininity, especially that men notice. They really are very intrigued by a mysterious woman, who's not constantly talking. If you want to be attractive, yeah, man, getting that mystery going, by just like not talking as much, that's like one of the hacks to being attractive. Like seriously, just, you know, just be silent. Let there be moments of silence, and like men like really eat that up. So anyways, those are 9 ways to be more feminine. Plenty of ideas, you know, take what certain things will resonate with you more than others. So, you know, just take what resonates and leave it at that. But anyways, yeah, so if you have any questions, let me know. I hope that was helpful. And if you like this video, feel free to leave a comment or subscribe. And yeah, so have a good day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.